Hi, my name's Raphael Heath, the Head of Geography at the Royal High School, Bath. This is my second and updated version of a tutorial about how to access and view the World Record Data event map information, and how to sort of play around with visualizing the information, as this is where it's going to get really interesting for students beyond just entering data, if you want your students to get involved in that sort of layer of things. So once the data is entered, which I discussed in my first tutorial, you can see here on our website, GIS Record 2014 gimdo.com website, that there's a link here to view and analyze the results of the data, and that's the easiest way to get to it, unless you're sort of very sort of proficient with using ArcGIS Online already. So that's just a really simple way in. If you click that, this is the map that opens. So you can see here, this is just before the event started, as people are just testing out the map input form, and some people have put some data into various places and locations. But once the event's done, hopefully we'll have thousands, tens of thousands of dots of data in with students' responses to the Quality of Life survey. So what we want to do is obviously zoom into a region of interest to us, an area, and transform these dots into data that we can visualize. So if you go under the Content button, you'll see the layers called My Local Data Mapper, which reminds me, if you want to do the same thing but directly in ArcGIS Online, so you don't want to go via the website to access it, so your kind of students may be quite used to getting to ArcGIS Online, then you can go to www.arcgis.com, and when you do your search, put in Local Data Mapper and search for the layers that come up on that. And it's this one you want, Local Data Mapper by Esri UK team, 4th of November, which just contains the world record data. If it brings up lots of stuff, you can narrow it down by layers, as this is a features layer, or by date to bring up most recent ones. So that will open it up, and it will get to exactly the same point that this is in a map. Obviously, if you are a subscriber to ArcGIS Online, you've got an account, then obviously the benefits of being able to sign in at this stage means that any map changes and manipulations you make can then be saved as you go along into your account, and you can re-access it rather than starting from scratch each time. So here we are, this is the dots of the data. So I'll show you under this little mini secret arrow here for this layer. If you go under just about, you get description of the map. Under legend, you get any sort of key information, but content is where you want to go. And that small arrow under the local data mapper layer, you go to change symbols, and you can you can change symbols according to various types. It's on a single symbol as a star now, just to make it clear and distinct, and the colour and the size are probably logical other ones to go for. So I'll show you with a colour. You select a field, you can see the different fields here refer to the answers to the questionnaire. So air referred to a question about how clean, out of a scale of 1 to 10, people rated the quality of the air in the area they lived in. And the boy girl obviously refers to just whether data was answered by males or females, so perhaps less relevant to show as data here. Cleanliness of the area. Climate was a question specifically about their concerns over climate change, and so on. So if I was to pick something like safety, they asked about a question about crime, how safe do they feel their areas to walk alone at night, and then I can pick a colour scheme. So I can pick a two-tone one just to bring out colours more clearly. I can pick how many classes of colour I want. I'll stick to the default 5 to start with. So I've got these numbers 0 to 1, 1 to 3, and so on for people that were concerned about crime in their area, safety in the area, and the greener colours the less so. So if I apply that now, you can see the stars have changed to these symbols. It's not brilliantly clear because the dots are quite small, so if I go into the options here, I can change all symbols. If I change the symbols, I've got lots of different options I can choose. I'm just going to fiddle around with the symbol size a bit. I'm going to make them a little bit bigger. If I apply that, you can see the effects. They're coming a bit clearer already, and I can change the transparency. So if I apply that again, and that sort of brings out the colour even better, since I don't particularly need to see through the circles, as I can see lots of information around them. So I can play around with that, and your students can continue playing around with that as they wish. You can have an outline on that if you think that's clearer as well for the symbols, and so on. So now I can see the data, some patterns. At a first glance, it appears that for the small test data we got on here around Bristol and Bath, the few that have entered it. There's not huge concerns about safety at night. If I sort of scan across this area in London, I can see that, that there are some more concerns coming out. Now, whether that means anything at this stage from the data we've got is a deeper question about the data collection, which I'd encourage your students to think about as well. But this is the basic principle of changing the symbols that you can do here. And from doing that, you obviously start to zoom in and look at certain patterns at different scales that you might wish. So obviously, by zooming into a very close scale, I can see if there's sort of more regional variations in this data. If I zoom out further, I can see kind of national variations, national pictures. And I'll talk in a future tutorial about some of the issues about summarizing data for different regions and so on. If I zoom into here, there's quite a bit of data in this area already entered. I can find it. You can see here where students have kind of actually entered quite a lot of their data already, and some of the patterns and variations that's coming out in that in Phoenix, Arizona, for example. You can, if you want to stretch it further, get students to think a little bit about the interval classes that are being picked and how that affects how the data looks. You can see I've changed the intervals from to equal intervals rather than natural breaks there, and standard deviations and other options to pick as well, which will affect the data. But and how you pick it, and obviously the different classes I mentioned before can also be used, and again that will change the way the colours look and how the data's kind of the patterns come out. But that's all part of the interesting way you can kind of discuss with students data and presentation techniques, and obviously just doing something very simple like this, which is freely available on ArcGIS Online. I showed you didn't need to log in for anything on here. All this data is freely available as well. Students can already start to look at patterns, analyse patterns, and I'll talk about bringing in other data as well in another tutorial. If you wanted to change it to something else, like what do people think about their parks, the quality of parks, you simply change the to show to another value, and it changes it immediately. Oh, that didn't work very well. Let's see what I've done wrong there. Let's try that again. So it's got the numbers correct now between 1 and 10. I can see someone's putting the wrong number here up to 50, so might need to go back and find that and correct that. I'll talk more about that in a moment. But yes, the colours, and as you can see, have come out slightly different. They bring in different patterns, so it's dead easy to change. Similarly, if I want to change to proportional symbols, I go to size and apply the data there, and again, depending on how effective that is or what scale you're looking at, if you zoom in close enough, it brings out different proportional size circles for the responses. Again, you can manipulate the circle styles and colours, so I might have a small first one but a bigger end one. I'll just exaggerate that a little bit, and we can see certain variations coming out here. You've of course got issues of data sitting on top of each other here, which is always going to be a problem to some extent with data like this. And again, in a future tutorial, I'll talk a little bit about how you might cope with data that's on top of each other in order to provide at least some sort of meaning for it and averages and so on for the area. But there you go. There's the global picture, if that tells us anything about what people think about their parks from the initial responses so far. So that's the basics of changing symbols, which is going to get your students getting to look at data and think about the patterns and so on at an initial stage. And perhaps one last thing is interesting to consider the filter button here. So filtering, so you've got at the moment all the world's data in here, various things you might choose to filter for. You could filter for the date, for example, the data is entered. So as I showed you, this data is entered before the world record event. If you wanted to only look at stuff during a particular week, the week or event or so, you could say only show data that is not before or on or after a particular date, is after the world record breaking date, whatever. So you can pick a date from there, the 17th of November. So that would filter it down. At the moment that will bring no data up because that's not data hasn't occurred yet. You can filter by the things, so if, for example, you were looking, in this case we're looking, I think it was parks, and someone put in a wrong value, so they put in a value of 50 and it was skewing the way the data looked, you could filter it and say, okay, we want any data that is between the value 1 and 10, because anything else should be an error really, and we apply the filter, and that would get rid of a couple of bits of data that was causing problems in the data set. And similarly, some schools and teachers might be interested in filtering. I can remove that filter if I want. might be interested in filtering by their school's data only as a way of narrowing down, so they don't see the whole world's data perhaps. So again, they could pick their school name and then put in certain characteristics. So they might say I might have, I don't know, contain. So if I had the word Bath here, then Royal High School Bath, however they've typed it, Royal High Bath, Royal High School Bath, whatever they typed, at least it will come up with Bath, though possibly anywhere else with the word Bath in it in the world would come up as well. Or I could have several filters, add another expression. I could have, also the school name could be referred to as something else, like RHS or RHSB and so on. And then I can use filters to show all the ones that have these criteria, or have all the criteria, or just have any. So if they've typed in Bath or RHSB and so on. If I just try that now, you can see that only my schools have some responses have come up that refer to my school, and then theoretically all this data has just been entered by students perhaps that I might be interested in for some reason filtering down to. So that's how you can use filters as well, which is quite a useful tool within analysing data, especially if there's a lot of it and it's very crowded. So that's the tutorial I wanted to show you about how to access the world record data once information's in there. It's all publicly freely available. So go away and have a play with it and get your students to analyse data and write reports and think about what the data shows. I'll do another tutorial about sort of putting in secondary data and then some more sophisticated stuff, which probably applies to people really who've got subscriptions to do more complex analysis of the data. Okay, thanks very much.